Hey guys, how's it going? Fine, Typezine here, and today the video is going to be pretty different. It's not going to be a deck profile or anything, but it's actually going to be about grading a card. What the card is about, and my process of getting the card actually graded and sent back to me. So for those that aren't aware, grading a card means you're sending in a card to a third-party company. The two companies that are generally the most trusted and respected and well-known are BGS, which stands for Beckett Grading Services, or PSA, which stands for Professional Sports Authenticators. In this case, I went with Beckett. I actually tried to turn in this card to PSA first, because in the past, in my head, I always viewed PSA as a bit more, like it had a bit more reputation, I guess. So that's just the first company I went with. I did some research online, I learned how to submit cards, and then I turned it in. But they actually sent it back. And here's the slip they sent it back with, saying, return, no grade, no charge, no holder. Didn't get a grade, I just had to pay for shipping. I didn't have to pay for the grading of the card itself. I called PSA's customer service. I was like, yo, what's up? Do you guys not know how to grade Weiss Schwarz or anything? And basically the answer was yes. They didn't have information about Weiss Schwarz as a game, since it's such a niche game comparatively. So they said next time if you want to try to resubmit it, you should provide more information, try to include some examples. So that's what I did. I included more information. I gave them a link to the card on the card database for Weiss Schwarz. I sent them the set information. I actually sent them a couple of examples too. I sent them like some normal cards, and I sent them these two SSPs just for reference. But then ultimately it came back to me again with the same thing: return, no grade, no charge, no holder. With just not enough information, they didn't know how to grade it. So giving up on PSA, I went to BGS, which is the card you see here in the case, Beckett Grading Services. And I actually found out after I submitted this to BG, I should have done more research that BGS. That BGS actually has graded Weiss Schwarz cards before. They actually have a comprehensive database on a lot of cards, sports and gaming. And for Weiss Schwarz, for English Weiss Schwarz, they actually had every single set up to, I think, Persona 5. So I was quite impressed with that, and I had pretty high expectations of getting this card actually graded. So you guys probably have figured out what this card is by now, but here's the grand reveal. It's the Yukina I pulled from my case of English Bang Dream. Now, I didn't really know what to expect grade-wise. The grade is scaled from 1 to 10, 10 being basically just pristine, perfect mint, and 1 being basically super damaged. And I really wasn't expecting like a 10. Based on what I hear, 10s are almost impossible for BGS to give out, just because your card has to be so pristine. Sometimes like the card will already be damaged in the pack, so there's no way you're going to get a 10 regardless of that. So going into Beckett, I was hoping for like 8.5, 9, 9.5 at most. The card, once I pulled, I put it in a sleeve, and there has been some movement since I sent it into PSA twice. So I have seen a lot of shuffling around, I guess, in different hands besides mine. So my confidence level was like hoping for a 9, 9.5 would be great. 10 is basically impossible. I don't think I'm ever going to get a 10. And the card came back to me yesterday. And lo and behold, got a 9.5. Now, grading is for BGS divided into 4 categories: centering, corners, edges, and surface. Centering basically meaning how centered the card is in relation to the sides and center. For example, in this particular card, let's see if you can zoom in a bit. I had to wonder for a while why this card got a 9.5. Because I didn't really know how Weiss cards were centered. But if you can see, notice the third wing from the top, that white wing right there. Now notice how the tip isn't touching the edge of the card. While on the other side, the third wing actually goes over the edge of the card. So that's not really completely centered. Now if we take a look at some other examples, for example, I have this Kirito here. The third wing, the tip barely touches the edge, and then on the other side, the third wing, I think, barely touches the edge as well. So this is a more centered card. Comparatively, another example here, we have a Maid Asuna. You can see the third wing here goes over the edge of the card, while the third wing on the right-hand side isn't even close to touching the edge of the card. So that's what we have here for the Yukina, is that the card isn't perfectly centered because you can clearly see that the two sides are not perfectly aligned with each other. So that's where the 9.5 comes from. The cornering and edges 9.5s, I honestly expected I would probably get like 9s because I know BGS is pretty strict in their grading. Obviously invisible to the naked eye, but if you put it under like a super scope, like 10 times magnification, I'm sure you can see a lot of differences. I'm actually using this recording method because my phone can actually zoom in quite well. So you can kind of see, if we zoom in a bit closer, I don't know if you guys can see this clearly, but clearly there's signs of like minor wear on the edge, on the corner of the card. There's like a little bit of whitening. The two examples I noticed were the whitenings on the top right. You can see that line there of just like minor whitening, and the bottom right, near the bottom right there. So that's what's going on with corners, and that's not something I expected to get perfect scores on. I don't think it's ever really possible to get a perfect Jin Mint like corners, just because of a lot of things have to go your way, both in terms of handling and luck in terms of how the card came in the first place. Edges, same deal, just probably just got whitening on the edges. I couldn't really find any particular examples, but I'm sure if we looked harder, we could find some. I mean, this is the back of the card. And then we got a 10 on the surface, which actually was a pretty big surprise. I think, because there's actually, I think, like a tiny macroscopic dot on the right cheek of Yukina. I'm not sure if I can actually show this on camera very well. I'll try. There. That little tiny dot thing, I saw that a bit of after I opened it. I'm pretty sure that was just from the factory. But regardless, that is there. But also regardless, I somehow got a 10 on the first surface. I'm just like, whoa, what is going on? Overall, 3 9.5s and 1 10, so the overall score came out to be 9.5. I think to be considered for a 10, you have to get like 2 9.5s and 2 10s, or like 3 9.5 or 3 10s and 1 9.5. And then they also have this like pristine ultimate 10 where all the categories are 10, and those basically don't exist. So overall, pretty happy with the score, pretty happy with the card, and it's going to be sitting in my collection for the foreseeable future. Now, when I first opened this card, and I actually put it on like a wanted sell post that I did on Facebook. Wasn't quite sure if I wanted to sell or not. I was just kind of like, if you can give me some offers, I'll consider them. And got offers of like 1,500, 900, and then ultimately the highest offer I got was 1,650 for the card. But I ultimately decided that wasn't worth it for me because of the sentimental value I had for the card, opening the card, and my feelings towards the Bang Dream franchise, going to Japan, seeing Aina Aiba and Rosalia live. It just really wasn't worth it for me. So I decided after I rejected the offer what I wanted to do with the card, and I decided, hey, if I'm going to be keeping this card and I want to protect it forever, I'm never going to use it in a deck. Why don't I grade it? So that's what happened. So yeah, there we have it. That's the card, and I think that's all I wanted to say. Oh, some other things I wanted to say, point out real quick. My experiences with the trying to grade them and my thoughts on like this capsule overall. So like the capsule that the Beckett card comes in, it's kind of like it has two plastic pieces, like you can see there, and then they kind of seal it so that it's tamper-proof and you can't really open the case and then put another card inside, or open the case and then grab the sticker and then put it into another holder. So that's pretty nice. I was a bit disappointed by kind of like the shoddy quality of the plastic case itself. I thought it would be like a bit nicer, but probably just looks like cheap plastic in the end. It's not a huge deal, but it was still like an expectation that I had that didn't quite go the way I expected it to. Other things about submitting, the submission process overall. PSA, I think, has a lot easier submission process. Everything's online. You just submit the card, like submit the turnaround time, like 2 days, 5 days, 10 days, and then you just kind of like pay, and then they give you all the forms you need to print out, and then you just pack it, ship it, and then they'll ship it back to you. That's pretty simple. For Beckett, they don't really have like an online turn-in thing. Their website is kind of like hard to navigate. They have so many things going on. And I think like ultimately you have to print out their submission form and then manually write down everything yourself and then manually calculate everything yourself as well. So that's a bit more of a hassle compared to PSA. Price-wise, PSA charges you based on the value of the card. So the declared value I had going for Yukina at the time when I turned it in was $1,200, and since it reached over, since it was the 500 to 2,000 mark, I had to turn it into within a certain grading criteria or higher. So I had to turn it in at like $50, and then plus the shipping, and then shipping you had mandatory insurance, so it was like $30 to ship it back. So overall, it would have cost me like $80 overall to have it graded and shipped back. But since I turned it into PSA twice and they declined it twice, I just had to pay for shipping, but shipping was still $30 back. And then me shipping it to them was just $7 through a flat rate small box. So it cost me around like $75-80 just for the whole PSA experience of shipping it to them and them shipping it back twice. That cost me $80. So I turned to Beckett. Fortunately, I knew of this vendor at Frankensons. It's a trading show. This vendor at Frankensons that did Beckett orders on your behalf. He submits in bulk, and you get the cheaper pricing. So it actually only cost me $48 for everything. There's $24 to grade the card, and then $8 to ship it back, and then $16 for shipping insurance, because insurance is mandatory, and then my declared value was over $1,000. And this actually is a lot cheaper than if I were to submit it to Beckett myself. If I were to submit it to Beckett myself, it would have cost me $95, but I actually saved a bunch of money by turning it into an aggregate bulk guy and saving basically half my money. So that was really good. Okay, I think that's all I have to say about this card. Any questions, comments about like turning in cards to Beckett or PSA or other things regarding like grading process? I'll do my best to answer them if you have any questions in the comments. Otherwise, I'll see you guys in my next video. Ciao.